Okay, and we are live. Give me a second to set up everything here. And anybody in the chat, let me know how the audio levels are. Yeah, we already have Carlos, Sergio, and Mr. F in the chat. What's going on, guys? All right, everything's good. Yeah, I can tell the stream, the video anyway, is going good. I sometimes need your guys' opinion on the audio though, because I don't hear the desktop audio. All right, if everything seems to be working as expected. All right, who else we have? We have Yu. Glad you could join us. Steve, Hector, Ron. Okay, so I have not done a live stream in a little while. I haven't done a real live stream actually in quite some time. The last couple of times I've done a live stream have been mainly testing because I could not figure out what was going on with my Open Broadcaster software, OBS. I just could not get it to work. You guys know I've been hopping a lot on various distros. I probably tried 10 different distros in the last 10 weeks. I was hopping every single week, and for some reason OBS was really giving me some problems. It started a couple of months ago. I was having some flickering issues, occasional stuttering, but it really got bad about 3 weeks ago. I was running Arch. 2 or 3 weeks ago I was running Arch Linux, and I ran Arch Linux for almost 2 weeks, and I could not get OBS to function correctly in Arch for anything. I couldn't record, not even live stream, just doing a desktop recording. I couldn't do that at 1080p, which I have done everything in 1080p prior to that. So all of a sudden it just wouldn't work. Live streaming was completely out of the question, and I wasn't sure what was going on. About 3 months ago, I was running Manjaro, and I ran Manjaro for a good solid 2.5 months or so. That was before all the hopping in the last couple of months, and I was like, you know what, everything just worked on Manjaro. So I reinstalled Manjaro. I even put the same kernel, LTS kernel I was running back then. I think I was running 4.9. So it's not a kernel problem. It's not a version of OBS either. I tried the OBS that's in the Arch repo. I've tried the version of OBS that's in the AUR. Built one from source, the Git OBS. It's not a problem with the versions of OBS. It's not a problem with the NVIDIA drivers. I just could not figure it out. Finally, I decided, you know what, it just may be the video card. I've had this video card for about 4 years now. It was an NVIDIA 760. Not the most powerful video card, but you know, when it came out 4 years ago, it was pretty decent. Certainly decent enough to do what I do, which is mainly just record my desktop and a webcam. You know, I'm not trying to record video games or live stream video games, you know, at a very high frame rate or anything like that. So the 760 had been working for me for a long time, and then all of a sudden it's just not wanting to record anything, even just simply recording my desktop, not even live streaming. Couldn't get it to work in anything above 720p 30 frames a second, which is crazy because I was doing 1080 60 frames a second just a few weeks ago with the same card. So I was like, you know what, maybe this card is the issue. So I went and bought, let's see if I can get that in the frame, GeForce 1060. And I went with the 1060 because it's similar in specs to the 760 in that I didn't have to upgrade my power supply. I have a 500 watt power supply in this, so that's good with the 1060. I get a little bit more video memory with the 1060. 3 gigs is what's in this card, and it didn't cost, you know, the price of a used car. The 1060 is like the best card you can get before you really start having to give an arm and a leg. The price on this, someone's asking, this GeForce GTX 1060 was $349. I bought this locally at Best Buy, so I'm sure I could have found a better deal on the internet, but I was in a hurry. I was tired I've been fighting with this machine now for 3 or 4 weeks, and it's cost me losing time here. I haven't been doing the number of videos I've wanted to do because I spent so much time trying to fix my machine here. And oddly enough, swapping out the video card worked. As soon as I plugged in this new video card, I did a test recording, just recording my desktop, just a fake show, switching scenes here in OBS, various scenes here in OBS. I can play my intro, which I should have done at the beginning of this. And everything just looks smooth. Everything just works. I wasn't sure how streaming was going to do until I started the stream, but watching it in the live preview here in Firefox, it looks great. I'm using NVENC, the graphics card encoder. Everything is just looking good now, so I think the card was the problem. Again, that card was 4 years old. I bought this desktop 4 years ago, February 2014, yeah, almost exactly 4 years ago. So it was time to upgrade that card anyway. I'm glad I went ahead and picked up something. So hopefully I can get the channel back on track. The super chat from Mr. Go F Yourself. Appreciate that, buddy. He wants me to try Parrot OS. He's requested that a number of times. I've got it in my to-do list. I will definitely take a look at Parrot very soon. It's been a crazy couple of weeks because I was having computer problems, and then anytime I could spend actually recording video for the channel, of course, the 1804 releases were the big thing in the last week, and then Fedora right behind that. So it's been a very busy, somewhat stressful week because I work a full-time job as it is, outside of doing this, and then I've spent pretty much every bit of my free time doing a lot of these videos in the past week. But it was good for me to keep up with the channel here, because I know a lot of people were expecting, especially the 1804 reviews from me. No, I really couldn't slack on those. As far as the chat here, we got the chat plugin here installed in OBS. This is the OBS Linux browser plugin, which I had used this before. It was working correctly a few weeks ago when I was using it. I'm reading a little bit of the chat. I know some of you guys. Darkwin is in the chat. Nice. 1060 are good cards. Yeah. 1060. Like I said, it's the best card you can get before they really jump in price after the 1060. I paid $350 for the 1060. The next card, the 1070, costs $500. $500 plus tax. And that's 10% sales tax here. So I couldn't buy a 1070. That's a big jump up. And then, of course, you got the 1080 at $600 and some change, and from there you're basically, it's the price of a Buick. So and Ron Lee, yeah, that should be a good card. Yeah. Mr. Go F Yourself, no more flickering. Yeah, I could not figure out what was going on with the flickering. I thought maybe it was the webcam. I thought maybe it was the cords from the cam to the computer, trying all the USB ports. Maybe it was one of the ports was bad. It's not the camera. It's not OBS. It's not my video drivers. It's not the kernel. I had to change cards. So the video card, I think, was the problem. Also in the chat, we have Keegan, what's up? Trying to get Manjaro Gaming Edition installed. I didn't know Manjaro did a gaming edition. That's pretty cool. Right now I'm running Manjaro's i3 edition on my computer. That's the one I went ahead and installed because you guys know in the last month I'm supposed to be living in a tiling window manager, which I have. I know I haven't done any videos on that in a couple of weeks. The first few days of living in a tiling window manager and trying to use only terminal-based applications, I made a few videos, but after that my computer was acting up. It caused me to lose some time making videos, and then once I could get back up and running, I got all the 1804 releases to record. But I am going to make some more videos on all the terminal apps and the command line apps I've been learning, playing with. You guys know I've been living in Qtile here lately, so let me pull up my desktop here. This is Qtile here. Just your standard tiling window manager. I've got the terminal binded to Super plus Enter. I'm in floating mode right here on this screen because this is my VirtualBox layout here. It's where I usually open my virtual machines. I don't want my virtual machines tiling. Usually I want them actually in this layout here, the max layout. But you know, I could run something here. I could open up another program, maybe the Linux web browser. And in max layout, the Linux web browser is going to open full screen on top of HTOP, which is also running. But I can super key tab to cycle through the layout, so I can quickly go to this layout, which is called the Monad Tall layout. If I want to swap positions of the windows, maybe put links on the left side instead of the right side, Super Shift J will move that window. Super Shift K will move it back. The Vim keys, J and K. Super Shift and then J and K to swap positions. I could also change the size. I could Super Shift H to make that window a little bigger, or Super Shift L to move it back, or keep going. And Super Shift C for close. So you guys have seen me do quite a bit of stuff with Qtile. I've made a few videos on Qtile. And this is a layout here that should show my web browser if I had it open. There it goes. Actually have to have Firefox open for that to show, but there's web browser. While I've got actually this screen up, this is of course my YouTube channel page. Subscribers, 4,600 subscribers in a little under 7 months. Again, this is my 200th video. I didn't mention that earlier in the stream, but I put it in the title. This actually is video 200. So I've had quite a bit of output as far as making these videos. You guys know I typically average about 1 video a day. That's typically what I try to do. Usually you get about 6, 7, sometimes 8 videos a week. You know, it varies depending on my schedule. You guys know I also don't have a set schedule. Some of you guys, you know, ask me, hey, when are you going to live stream? When's your next live stream? It's just whenever I happen to be off work and I can sit down here and click start streaming. So it's hard for me to schedule anything because I have a rotating schedule in my work. So I can't set a specific time and day every week to stream, unfortunately. I wish I could, because it certainly would help you guys out, so you guys would know exactly when I'm streaming. But yeah, the channel though has just exploded as far as subscribers. Last Thursday, when the Ubuntu release came out, the Ubuntu 18.04 release came out, I was making a video on that, and I had just gotten my 4,000th subscriber, and that was last Thursday, a week ago. So we're already at 4,625. Just crazy. I'm getting somewhere around 1,400 subscribers in the last month. I think the month before that I got 1,200 new subscribers. It's kind of shocking how many people are actually interested in some of this stuff, to be honest. I wouldn't have thought that many people would be interested in stuff like this, as far as like the distro reviews and stuff. I'm reading some of the chat here. Toss is in the chat. He says, hello, congrats. Thanks, Toss. It's not 2,000 videos like you. Although at this pace, it'd take me a little more than 5 years to get there. So I might get there a little quicker than you, but I'm going to have to slow down. It would be very difficult for me to keep the pace I'm at right now. At least not with all the other things going on in life. So got to slow down, or, you know, you face the real problem of burnout. I don't want to be those people that just disappear from YouTube and just the internet in general. So many YouTube channels are dead now, and not just Linux channels, but I mean, I follow, you know, a lot of YouTube channels, various topics. And so many of them start off great. Guys are making just quality content, a lot of quality content. And they can do it for 6 months, maybe a year. 2 years down the road, no one's heard from them. No one even knows if they're alive because they just quit doing videos. They quit YouTube. They quit responding to any kind of communication. You know, I can understand how people can get that burnout where they just have to leave it all behind on a permanent basis. I mean, some of these people that leave swear it off to the point they will never come back. So, yeah, I'm missing quite a bit of the chat. There's actually a lot of chat going on here. Let's see if I can scroll back up. You guys won't see it on this screen, but I'm going to scroll back a little bit and see who I missed in the chat here. Toss says, for a second I thought I saw 2,000. No, not 2,000 yet. Carlos is mentioning some hardware stuff. He likes a Ryzen processor. Yeah, I would love to buy a computer with a Ryzen processor. I probably will eventually, a few months down the road, because I do need to upgrade this machine other than just the video card I bought. Let's see, Keegan's in the chat. Darkwin mentions my arm and a leg thing about the video cards, but I mean, seriously, the price point from 1060 to 1070, that is a big jump. I mean, when you're paying more than $500 for a video card, that's a serious investment. Especially if you don't have like a lot of extra scratch just laying around. I don't have that much just disposable income at the moment. I've made a little bit of money doing this YouTube channel. I made, you know, a couple $100 along the way. But of course I bought my Blue Yeti mic. That cost me $150. The webcam I'm currently using cost me around $100, $110. Now the video card's another $350 or so. It starts adding up. But you know what, I can't complain because I do enjoy this, and I definitely want to improve the quality of the show. Not to mention, if I ever do become a gamer, I'll probably appreciate having that NVIDIA 1060. You know, might have to try out some Counter-Strike later. Let's see, Ron Lee, he mentions his mom has Kubuntu on her computer. Great. I had my mom running Ubuntu at one time. Now she's running Windows. I think she's still running Windows 7 actually on a laptop, but it's really, really slow, and she's asked me to put Ubuntu back on it. So I may end up doing that for her very soon. If I do, I might do a video on it. Zeneris, he mentions, what video card did I get? I got the GeForce 1060. So this is P&I GeForce 1060. Alright, Kerwin's in the chat. Kerwin, what's going on? Kerwin Jones from Australia. One of our regular viewers here. Yeah, the GTX and 1060 in Australia is around 500 Australian dollars, yeah. What did he have prior to the 1060? I had a 760. So, went from a 760 to a 1060. The 760 was great. I had no problems. I mean, the little bit of gaming I did was fantastic with the 760, to be honest. The streaming that I'd been doing, it's just all of a sudden things weren't working right. So Darkwin, Ryan will say i3 is better, I'm assuming. Yeah, better than Qtile. Well, he can say that. Opinions. It's just opinions. And I am going to try out i3 very soon, so I'll have an opinion on that very shortly. Well, that's another thing I need to get back into, is reviewing those obscure window managers. Fluxbox is the next on the list. I'm going to try to do that tomorrow, maybe. Fluxbox will be a pretty straightforward window manager. Pretty easy to knock that one out. And then after that, then I've got three that I don't know anything about. Herbstluft, i3, of course, and Ice Window Manager. So, but even though I don't know anything about those, I think those will be pretty straightforward to review too. They definitely won't be as difficult to review as FVWM, which was kind of a nightmare to get into, and TWM was very strange. And Xmonad, I use Xmonad, so I already have config files written for Xmonad, but if you are just starting out with Xmonad is a really tough one to get configured and working properly. I knew you because of the Manjaro and the Triskel videos. Oh, great. I haven't ever used Triskel on physical hardware, but Manjaro I've installed a few different times in VMs and physical hardware. It just works. If you want an Arch-based install that just works, Manjaro's really nice. Alright, Carlos, where are you working? I work in retail. I don't do anything with computers as far as real life. I'm assuming that's what you were getting at. Do you run Linux at work? Actually, no. And D8400. Alright, I'm out. Peace, D. I installed Ubuntu 18.04, switched back to Debian 9 Stretch. Nothing wrong with Stretch. I love Debian. Tabella Rasa. Hi all. Don't burn out, DT. I won't. I plan on taking a vacation soon from everything. I'd like to take a week. Take a trip somewhere, I don't know. Just get away for a little bit. I'm due for one anyway. Toss. He says it's easy to burn out and your third monitor crapped out. That's interesting you say that. I should have mentioned this earlier. You guys see my third monitor, the far left? You see how it's black? I need a cable. When I bought this new video card, I need a HDMI to DisplayPort adapter. Different ports in this card than my old card. So it actually had 5 ports though. So it will only support 4 monitors at a time, but it had 5 ports in the back. Unfortunately, 3 of them are DisplayPorts. And these monitors are not DisplayPort, so at least one of them is going to have to be some kind of adapter to DisplayPort. And we have Pusang in the chat. Only new hardware worth acquiring is hardware that'll pay for itself. Yeah, I would agree with that. I probably would have never upgraded that card had it not be for doing these streams and stuff in OBS, because I would have never noticed that that card was starting to act funny if I wasn't doing something so intense as far as, you know, really stressing that card. Because normally what I do on a computer doesn't stress the video card at all. Alright, Tabella says, very quick, gotta go. Enjoying the new video card. Yeah, so far, I mean, I just plugged it in this afternoon. I spent a couple hours this afternoon, went shopping, shopped around, bought this card, came home, plugged it in. Like I said, just played around, did a few test videos just to see how things looked, and it looked fantastic. I mean, right away, I knew I'd made the right choice swapping out that old card. So I wanted to do a live stream tonight, mainly just to test the card. But it just also, it happened to be my 200th video, so I figured I'd add that to the title. But I really didn't have anything else planned. This install I am on. Let me switch back to my desktop here. This new install of Manjaro, it's only been on my machine here for a week and a half. I still need to transfer some files, some backups to this. I've hopped so much in the last 2 months. Like I said, I changed distros every week for like 10 weeks straight. So I've had a ton of different things on this machine in the last couple months, and I think I'm going to just quit distro hopping on this machine. It's just gotten too much lost time trying to restore things, you know, because every time you reinstall, you know, you have to get all your backups and, you know, restore all your backups, get all your config files. You know, I save all my stuff to GitHub, you know, pull all those down. That's a lot of wasted time, because this is not stuff I'm actually recording on the channel. You know, I'm just wasting hours doing that kind of stuff. So on my main production machine, as long as Manjaro is working, it's going to stay here. I have absolutely no plans to hop on this machine as long as things are working. The production machine straight right now, so I think what I'll do is I might look into buying some other machines, some cheaper machines, maybe some older used computers to hop on if I want to do physical hardware. Of course, I've got my laptop back here that I don't mind hopping on yet, but I would like to buy like some older machines, especially to try out, you know, more minimal distros designed for older hardware, like Antics. I would love to buy, you know, some machines that are 10 years old, 12 years old, and install things like Antics on, really ancient hardware, Lubuntu, LXLE, Peppermint, things like that. Because those would be great. You don't need a high-end machine to get those things up and running. And I think there's a segment of the population that would be interested in those sorts of things. A lot of us have old computers that just don't work with Windows anymore and are looking for a way to restore those. Well, with Linux, there are a lot of options for that. While we're all here, one thing I do need to go through the trouble of setting up here is I have a ton of virtual machines. Not all of them made the trip when I did all these reinstalls, or new installs actually. All these nuke and paves. I lost a lot of VMs I had. I know I had one of Solus that I lost along the way. Void Linux also. I've been keeping a Void Linux VM for a while. I lost it, but I still have a lot of VMs here. Some of these have not been updated in a long time. I wonder if I even want to take the chance of updating any of these on camera. You know what? Why not? We only live once, right? Which one would be the safest one? Probably one of the Arch-based distros. You know what? Let's go with Arco. While I'm sitting here reading the chat, we can at least have packages installing and have an update running. And we'll switch that to full screen. And I'm enjoying a beer here, guys. Been a long day. I actually did make it to the gym today. Got a workout in, so did something productive here. Alright. And in Awesome, this is the Awesome window manager here in Arco Linux. The super key plus enter gives us a terminal, same as in my Qtile session, which sometimes you guys that run tiling window managers, be aware of this. Sometimes you can have problems if the mod key in both your host machine and the virtual machine are set to the same thing. Because if you're not careful and you don't know whether you're in the host machine or in the VM, you could do something really crazy, like hit the key binding to quit, for example. And if you think you're in the VM but you're really in your host machine, you just killed your window manager, which in my case means the stream dies. So you really have to be careful. The pro tip is to set the mod key for the VM differently than the mod key for the host machine. Set the one in the VM to Alt if you've got the super key set as the mod key on your host machine. So I'm going to do a simple sudo pacman -syyuu. This VM here hasn't been updated probably in a month, so I'm not sure. Yeah, it's got a lot. Actually, all these VMs are going to be that way because I haven't bothered maintaining them as I hopped. So the Gen 2 ones are going to be crazy long updates because of how long it takes to update a Gen 2 system anyway. So Sabian, and I think I had Calculate. I'm going to have to do those overnight. No way I'm doing those here on camera. Let me get back to the chat while this runs. Let's see. Ben Fitzpatrick is in the chat. He made a new Manjaro KDE respin with TJ Wolf. Yeah, you had mentioned that you were doing something with Manjaro, and I do want to check that out. When you guys get that ready for a public release, definitely hit me up with a link, and I'll definitely check it out. May check it out on the channel here, actually. Let's see, what are you going to do with the old card? Well, again, I'm not sure if that old card was functioning correctly as it is, so I'm kind of scared to put it into another machine. Now, for testing purposes, like an extra machine, like of mine, I would do that, but I'm not going to like give it to family or friends and say, hey, here's a really great card to upgrade your crappy card, and then they put it in, and a month down the road, it dies. So I'll keep it. I've got spare parts. We all do, I'm sure. Any of us that deal with computers a lot. I'll put it in something. Zenaris asks, have you ever used Emacs as your text editor? No, I've never done anything with Emacs. As far as a text editor, especially a terminal-based text editor, Nano serves everybody's purpose as well for the most part. If I want to do something more advanced, if I was a programmer, Vim, VI is installed on every Linux machine by default anyway, and I kind of know my way around Vim a little bit. Emacs, I would have to, actually put in some effort to learn Emacs. And Emacs is really more than a text editor anyway. I mean, it's more of almost a desktop environment, the way it's set up. It wouldn't make sense for somebody like me really to put that much time and effort into learning Emacs. Because again, I'm not a programmer, I'm not a developer. I'm just a nerd, so. Does anybody still go to their local library and borrow Linux books? I do, and that was Keegan there. No, actually, that's interesting that your library has some Linux books for you to check out. I've got a library less than a mile away from me. I should check that out too. That's a good tip there, Keegan. So how long do you think it'll be before you get return on investment on this new GPU? How different does it feel compared to the previous? Well, regardless of return on investment, if the other one wasn't working properly, I had to buy one anyway. So there's that. As far as, will the channel eventually pay for this card? Yeah. I don't know, 3-4 months down the road, maybe it'll pay for that card. Of course, by then, and there will be other expenses. I probably will have had to buy other things along the way. But yeah, I would expect, it'll pay for itself eventually. I don't know if I would have went with something like the 1080, which is like $600-700 bucks. It might be a long time before that thing would pay for itself. Although I would have loved to have pulled the trigger on the 1080, but if I'd have bought the 1080, not only am I out, $600 to $700 bucks purchasing that card, I have to upgrade the power supply at that point because it's going to require a bigger power supply than what I've got. That's another, I don't know, $100 bucks or whatever. I don't know what a 600 or 700 watt power supply run me these days, but I didn't have that kind of cash on me, so. Darkwind says, you'll distro hop. Yeah, I probably will. I say I won't, but you're right. I probably will. But usually I'm pretty good. When I set rules for myself, I stick to them. I'm pretty disciplined in that respect. So if I say no more distro hopping on this machine, I'll probably stick to it. Now that laptop back there, it's about to get wiped out every couple of days because I probably hop on that all the time. Darkwind mentions that's like Rocco, Big Daddy Linux, saying he won't hop. Yeah, he does a lot of hopping, but I mean he has extra drives in his machine. I can understand why he does it. I only have one hard drive in my main production machine here, well, SSD drive. So if I had extra drives, it'd make things a little easier. Which is another thing I mentioned things that I've got to upgrade eventually. I got to get more storage because it's a 500 gig SSD. That thing gets filled up quickly. You guys see how many VMs I've got, and half of those VMs are just distros I installed in the last week. Reviewing these on the channel, all those 1804 VMs and the Fedora 28 VMs. I reviewed all of those in the last week, since last Thursday. So, and those things are probably taking, at least 100 gigs of my 500 gig SSD drive, just those 7 or 8 distros. So, because I give each of those VMs 15 gigs. So. Ron Lee mentioned, once you hop, you can't stop. I'm going to make a t-shirt out of that. That's a good line, Ron. For you guys interested in some of the terminal output here. Yeah, we're still doing this massive update here in Arco Linux. This was Arco Linux, the Awesome Window Manager edition. This VM, actually, I reviewed on the channel. I did this install on the channel about 2 months ago or so. Really loved this, their implementation here of the Awesome Window Manager. Just a gorgeous looking desktop, really. Beautiful wallpapers, beautiful panel at the top here. Some nice transparency in the terminals. This is really attractive. For those of you wondering, can a tiling window manager be attractive? You might want to check out what Arco Linux does with Awesome Window Manager. Of course, they also do some stuff with i3. I'm not sure if they're doing any other tilers. They may be doing BSPWM as well. I'm not sure on that. Of course, they do OpenBox, XFCE. I think they do Mate as well. They have a number of desktop editions now available. This update is going to take a little time. Let's see, back to the chat. Yeah, you can try update one Arch half a year later. No. And try to see if it breaks the system. You know, because I have some of these, you know, old backups, because I've been hopping. I mean, some of these backups are from 3-4 months ago, and they haven't been updated at all as far as these VMs. I did try that with, I had an OpenSUSE install from 6 months ago. I still had the VM backed up. It had never been updated in 6 months. It was OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. And when I went to update it, there was 2,200 packages to update. It was OpenSUSE Tumbleweed KDE. A 2,200 package update I already know is going to completely hose that VM. There's no way that thing's going to work. So I went ahead and tried it anyway, just for research purposes. And yeah, on boot up, on reboot, it didn't work. You don't want to go that long on a rolling release without updating, because it's going to break on you. If you have a couple hundred packages to update, like, you know, you go a couple of weeks, that's not too bad. This Arco Linux update here, that I didn't see how many packages were updating. Wouldn't shock me if it was 300 or 400. That's pretty bad there. You're starting to play with a fire there. If you have 1,000 packages or more that need to be updated, you can go ahead and try it, but make sure you already have your backups ready to go, because you're probably going to end up reinstalling. Ben mentions he wish he had a beer, but don't. Oh well. Well, go get you some, Ben. Toss, I'm watching this with my broken laptop using a TV as your monitor. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear you have monitor problems. It's strange you mentioned your third monitor wasn't working, and you know, my third monitor is also down today, but I just need a cable HDMI to DisplayPort adapter. What I did is I actually ordered it from Amazon just a few hours ago, earlier this afternoon, and I went ahead and paid for the one-day shipping. You know, I paid them like 18 bucks to ship it to me tomorrow, because I need this monitor back up and running. I mean, when you have 3 monitors, going to 2 isn't so bad, because I'm still able to like have OBS on one screen and then what I'm actually working on the other screen. But my workflow, I've gotten used to using 3 monitors, especially like when I'm streaming. I'm just like, normally when I stream, I have OBS on one monitor. I have, if I'm doing something in a VM, it's on one monitor, and then I have like Firefox, usually, you know, web browser, so I can see the stream preview, I can see the chat that's going on, all that. Right now, I'm actually having to cycle through some of the desktop layouts here in Qtile. For example, you know, if I wanted to, well, I'm not going to play with this right now because it's updating, but normally I could switch the screen to another desktop that has my web browser on it, but because I have this full screen and I'm doing the update, I'm just going to let it go. I don't want to risk crashing the VM or anything, especially when we're already so close to being done with this 367 package update. Oh, one thing I noticed here, I forgot to mention, in Eric Dubois' version of Awesome Window Manager, his config, he has some really interesting widgets here. You see, I hover over the calendar, or the time and date, I get a calendar. I hover over, let's see, what else? The weather, I get weather information. He's really got this Awesome Window Manager configured in a very sensible, smart way. Of course, Eric Dubois, the man's a genius. And as far as putting out a lot of videos, man, his output, I mean, he's always putting out new videos. Good content, too. Of course, it's all about Arco Linux, but even a lot of what he does with Arco Linux can apply to other Linux distros. Any of you guys that are not subscribed to Eric Dubois' channel really should subscribe to his channel. I'm going to go back to the chat here. Survivor of the Fire. Is this Arch Labs? That VM was not Arch Labs. That's Arco Linux. Keegan, the library is still a cool place to hang out. Okay. I never do anything in a library anymore. I haven't been to a library in years. But when I was younger, I spent all my time in the library. So what graphics card did you buy? Okay, yeah, some of you that just got here. It was the GTX 1060. Omar is in the chat. What's up? What's up, Omar? Glad you could join us. Joel is also here. Horace, don't get a new SSD. Get 1 or 2 terabyte SATA drive. Yeah, for storage, it makes sense to go that route. If mainly that's what I need is storage. Let's see. Would you recommend Arco or Arch Labs for a person wanting to learn Arch? Arco, maybe not as far as the install. Like what I did to get this awesome window manager working is basically a command line install. You know, now mainline Arch is a command line install. It wasn't that bad of a command line install, but you do have to know your way around the command line a little bit, and it's all script based. You run these scripts, you connect to the Arco GitHub page, you clone a repo, you start running all these shell scripts to install everything. If that's something that sounds like it scares you a little bit, maybe avoid Arco. If that doesn't sound like that's too much of a problem for you, go with Arco. Arco is a great distro. Arch Labs is a little bit easier of an install to get up and running. But honestly, if you're brand new to Arch Linux, you've never run any Arch-based Linux distro before, I would strongly recommend Manjaro, which I'm running today, or Antergos. Both of those have very easy to use graphical installers. I like the Manjaro installer a little better because it's quicker. The Antergos installer is a net-based installer, so it's pulling everything down from the web, so it takes a little longer to install. But that's just time. As far as ease of use, both of them are dead simple to get through. And the VM here, it's finished updating, so this was Arco. Let me go ahead and give it the shutdown command. Alright. Well, at least I got one of those VMs updated. Again, Calculate and Sabian being Gen 2 based. I'm not even going to attempt them on camera because they're going to take forever and a day. So one of them will probably get updated tonight. When I go to bed, I'll go ahead and start one of them updating. Tomorrow night, maybe I'll start the other one. Seduction LXDE. That's Debian Unstable there. I am not sure how long this VM has gone without an update. This could take forever too. For those of you that have watched the channel in the last week, here are all the Ubuntu 18.04 releases that I took a look at. Of course, Ubuntu 18.04, the mainline GNOME edition. We have Mate, Budgie, Xubuntu, Kubuntu, Lubuntu, and of course yesterday, Fedora 28 Workstation. I did a video on that, which I've done a couple of videos on Fedora in the past month. I looked at Fedora 28 when it was in beta twice, I think, on the channel before the final release. Really wasn't much difference in the final release from the betas. Alright, going back to the chat here for a minute. We have Sumant, I hope I pronounced your name right. Dude, I like your in-depth but systematic installation and walkthrough videos of Linux. Installed Xubuntu 18.04, love working with Linux, although there are a few issues, but that's part of the experience. Yep. And there's always going to be issues. The thing is, once you've solved some of these issues, the next time you have them, you know exactly how to fix them. You know, you're never going to have any operating system, really, Windows included, Mac included, that doesn't give you some problems. Now, your options are to find somebody to fix it for you, or learn how to fix it yourself. The more you learn how to fix things yourself, the better actually you become at fixing things yourself. Even things you don't know how to fix, you just get through the process of, you get used to researching. For example, I get used to going to the Arch Wiki or the Gen 2 Wiki and searching for a solution to my problem and just trying things. And I've never found a problem that I could not solve. Like, I've never found one that, you know what, I give up. You know, I'm done. You know? I found some that would take me so long to fix that I needed to do a reinstall, but never one that I thought, man, if I really put in all my time and effort into this, I couldn't fix it. I've never had anything quite like that. Other than, like completely broken stuff. I mean, obviously if you rm-rf, your root folder, you're not fixing that. Obviously, if you do some strange things using the dd command in the terminal, there's no coming back from that sometimes. Kernel panics. I never try to fix a kernel panic. Alright, do you plan on trying Linux on ARM? Maybe eventually. There's some things I want to do with that. What I would really love to do is buy a Raspberry Pi and do some Raspberry stuff on the channel. That's another expense along the way. And it was one I actually was going to do before now, but as things happen, there are bigger priorities. I had to drop a lot of cash on that video card, so the Raspberry Pi is going to have to wait a little bit. Another thing I had to do is, I don't have a lot of USB sticks laying around. I only have like 3 of them here, and one of them has been giving me problems. It doesn't operate like it should. So I needed more USB sticks to do some of the stuff I do with these installs on physical hardware. You often have to do it from a live USB stick. Of course, I can also review distros using a live USB stick. So I went and bought a 3-pack of the Sans Cruiser 16 gig USB sticks. That 3-pack cost me $40. But I needed them, so. Toss mentions, congrats again. I'll be live Friday night around 10:30. Okay. So tomorrow night, 10:30 your time is 9:30 my time. I should be around. So I will definitely try to join you, Toss. I'm sure a lot of the folks in the chat probably enjoy checking out Toss tomorrow night. His streams are always entertaining. A little bit of Linux talk, sometimes a little bit of Windows talk from Toss. He usually, eventually, talks about Star Trek somewhere in his stream. He usually talks about food, wine. But, at least 10% of what he's going to talk about will involve Linux in some way. The only thing with Toss is, he actually liked Star Trek Voyager. I thought Deep Space Nine was the best Star Trek series. Hands down. Deep Space Nine, very underrated. Pusang mentions he had never tried Arco, but Awesome Window Manager looks nice, but too heavy for my taste. Awesome Window Manager is too heavy for you. What are you running, Pusang? That's a new one. When Awesome Window Manager is too heavy for you, you need something more minimal than awesome. I mean, unless you're living in just the shell, no desktop environment at all. Let's see, we have Ron Lee mentions KDE Neon released 5.12.5 yesterday. It runs awesome. Okay. I took a look at KDE Neon in a VM. I haven't run it on physical hardware. I'm not a KDE fan, though. I did run Manjaro KDE. I gave it a try. For almost a month, I ran KDE on my main machine. And I had some problems with it, as far as, like, screen tearing and all. I could live in it. I don't hate, like, the workflow in KDE. That's not too bad. But really, once you get used to really minimal window managers like OpenBox and Xmonad and Awesome, Qtile, i3, those things, Fluxbox, it's hard to go back to a full desktop environment, like a heavy desktop environment like KDE or GNOME. Because in those minimal desktop environments, you're used to hitting a key and things happen instantly. It's not going to happen in KDE, and it's definitely not going to happen in GNOME. And that's a little annoying when you've used something else for years in some cases. In my case, I've never used any of the main desktop environments, none of the big ones. I've always been kind of a window manager only guy. Keegan mentions mate and meatballs. Yeah, that's what we're going to start calling Toss's show. Mate and meatballs. I made that joke the other night in one of his streams. For some reason, we were talking about meatball sandwiches all of a sudden. It went from, we were talking about Ubuntu Mate, and then all of a sudden, you know, we went on for 10 minutes about meatballs. Yeah, Q1 Fiend, +1 to Deep Space Nine. Yeah. For you guys, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Star Trek. Probably most of you have seen the original series. Many of you have also seen The Next Generation, but not a lot of people went on to the third series in the Star Trek line of things. Deep Space Nine was great. It was different than every other Star Trek series because it was more like a serial series. Instead of having like standalone episodes, like you didn't need to watch the episode before to watch the current episode of The Next Generation. Deep Space Nine was more serialized. And it had some great battle scenes, especially in the last season. Yu mentions, what about some BSD distros? I don't know anything about BSD. I reviewed 2 BSDs on the channel because they were requested. You know, I try to do some reviews that you guys suggest. TrueOS, I hated TrueOS. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen. Ghost BSD, had a lot of people say after I hated TrueOS, I tried the wrong BSD. Try Ghost BSD. They were right. Ghost BSD was not that bad. But again, I'm not I don't run servers, I'm not a sysadmin or anything, so I'm running things on a desktop or a laptop. Would I ever run a BSD distro on a desktop? No. What's the point? Linux is going to be so much better as far as desktop experience. In the server space, there may be some reasons why you would want to go with something like BSD over Linux. On the desktop, though, it's just not there yet. Joel Eisner is replying to Ron here. Exactly. When I was determining what desktop environment to go with 5 or 6 months ago, I didn't really consider KDE. It's improved a lot since then. I will say, you guys are right. KDE is so much better than what it was. KDE 4 was complete and total garbage. It was almost unusable because of how buggy it was. Oh. Ron Lee, oh no, The Next Generation was the best. The Next Generation was alright, but as far as the characters, I don't know, I found them kind of boring. As far as some of the personalities on the show, I don't know. I didn't find any of those characters as interesting as some of the Deep Space Nine characters, or of course the original series characters, the interplay between especially Kirk, Spock, and Bones. Even Voyager, which I hated, some of the characters were interesting. 7 of 9 in particular. Yeah, Daniel asks, wonder if the new graphics card will fix the screen tearing issues I had in something like KDE. Probably not, because when you talk about KDE and screen tearing and screen artifacts and stuff, I mean, there are people that are running really high-end stuff like, NVIDIA 1080s and Titans and things like that still have those same problems, that have to go in the NVIDIA settings and disable flipping and all that to try to get the screen tearing to go away. So I don't think it's necessarily a graphics card problem. I think it's just a KDE problem. I just think they need to get things straight. It's like they expect you to have to go in the NVIDIA settings and fix these things. But GNOME doesn't expect that. Now, I don't have screen tearing in GNOME. They make sure their desktop environment at least functions. Yeah, there's a huge memory leak in it, but Interceptors here. Evening, DT. Lately I found myself leaning more toward Qt apps, and less GTK. I ended up on KDE with BSPWM replacing KWin. I know you're not a fan of KDE, but what do you think of the Qt toolkit? I'm fine with the Qt toolkit. In many ways, it seems like everybody's moving to Qt anyway. Really interested in the LXQt desktop environment once it's a little more stable. For now, I'll stick with LXDE if I want a lightweight desktop environment, because LXDE is rock solid stable, because nothing changes in it. You know, there's no development really on it. LXQt, every time I try it, it just seems a little buggy. There's always, you know, a few little issues with it. Ron Lee mentions he saw all the series of Star Trek. Deep Space Nine was cool. The Defiant was awesome. Yep. All right, what time is it here? That's 8:30. So we've been streaming for about an hour. Anyway, I wanted to check just to make sure this video card was working here. Some of the things upcoming on the channel. I'm going to try to do at least one video tomorrow because I have a day off tomorrow. So I can spend all my time recording video. So I would like to get at least one major video done tomorrow. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do the next obscure window manager, which is Fluxbox. So I will have something on Fluxbox tomorrow. It would be kind of a lengthy video. I'll spend some time on Fluxbox. I may do also one other video since if I have a little extra time. So you might have two videos released, maybe one earlier in the day and one late that evening or early the next day. Not sure what the other video would be. I've got so many things written down that I want to eventually get to. So other things coming up on the channel. Let's see. The tiling window manager stuff. I need to get back into that. That may be the second video I do tomorrow. I may go ahead, because I really need to make that obscure window manager video for Fluxbox. I may also do one for the tiling window manager and the terminal apps, because it's been, I don't know, a couple of weeks since I did that one. Yeah, day 6 was over 2 weeks ago, so we're almost to day 30. It was going to be a 30-day challenge anyway, so I'm going to give you guys maybe a pretty big video on that, let you know all the apps, that show you how I've configured them, my workflow here in Qtile. I may also show you a little bit what I've done with Xmonad. I've lived in Xmonad a little bit along the way. Sometimes I log into that window manager and play around in it. I like both of them equally well, Qtile and Xmonad. They're actually similar in the way they handle multi-monitors, so that's really nice. Looking back at the chat here, let's see. Q1 Fiend, I feel like I'd run Debian Herd before a BSD on the desktop. I don't know if I would go that far. I haven't really tried Herd though, but Linux does so many things well on the desktop. I mean, Linux on the desktop is pretty much as good as Windows, in my opinion, or better in most cases. I mean, especially like hardware support. Installing drivers and things like that. BSD, not so. Let's see, OpenBSD is using FVWM as default. That's strange. I would agree with that, UU. Anything using FVWM by default would be strange. Let's see, Ron Lee, Fluxbox will be cool. Yeah. Fluxbox is really nice. If you want something lightweight, fast, minimal. Run with Dolphin. Run with the Dolphin is in the chat. He says congratulations on the 200th video. Thank you, Dolphin. For those of you that are not familiar with Run with the Dolphin, he one of the devs for Antics and MX Linux. Also has a great YouTube channel. You guys should check out some of his stuff too. Yeah, Joel also mentions congrats. So, Ron, congrats, D. Thanks, guys. It's really kind of a minor milestone. It just happened to be my 200th video today. Really, I was just making a test stream to test out this new graphics card, and I noticed it was the 200th video. So I was like, oh, I'll mention it on the video. Make you guys think maybe I had some big celebration planned here for the stream. No, not so. You guys know, especially for these live streams, I rarely do any kind of like prep work. Although now that I've got the streaming situation worked out, I think I'm going to do a bit more streaming than what I've been doing, because I just wasn't able to stream before. Now, with this new video card, everything seems to be functioning correctly. Maybe we do more fun stuff. Maybe I spend a little bit more money buying Steam games and doing some live streams from, playing Steam games, some of the big titles. I don't know. I'm not a gamer, but because I'm not a gamer, it'll be something new for me. It could be fun. You guys might enjoy me doing some of that kind of stuff too. Get away from some of the nerdy stuff like the tiling window managers and, play some first-person shooters or some role-playing games or something. Daniel, anyone have any suggestions for a tiling window manager on a HIDPI laptop? High DPI laptop. Okay. You're on a MacBook Pro 2012 Retina. Ooh. I don't use high DPI. I don't have a need for it on my monitors. I don't have a MacBook Pro either. I've never owned a Mac. As far as tiling window managers that do high DPI, I don't know. You're going to have to do some research into that. I have no answers for that one. As far as full desktop environments that do high DPI, GNOME does high DPI well. I know that's not what you're looking for, but... Let's see. You may have answered this while I was gone, but are there advantages for BSD-based OSs have over Linux? Again, not on the desktop. I do everything on the desktop. In the server space, yeah, I'm sure there's some things that BSD does fantastic. For one thing, the ZFS file system is, pretty much a BSD project. Which there's some licensing issues is reason we don't have ZFS in Linux, for those of you wondering. Some kind of conflict between the licenses. I guess the BSD license and the GPL license. I'm not sure what's going on with that. But I do know the Free Software Foundation does say that the BSD license is in conflict with the GPL. It's not compatible. But the Free Software Foundation is kind of militant about that sort of thing. Richard Stallman and that crowd. TJ Wolf is in the chat. Hi, DistroTube. Congrats. What video card did you get? I got a 1060, a GeForce GTX 1060. It replaced a GeForce 760 that I bought 4 years ago or so with this machine. A little over 4 years ago. That card, for some reason, was just not doing what it had been doing for me. I'd never had problems recording in 1080, 60 frames a second with that 760, and doing live streams at 720p was always fine. But all of a sudden, in the last month, maybe 2 months, things were just not working right. I thought it could be a software issue, and I've tried everything to fix the problem. Finally, I just thought, it might be hardware related, so I just replaced the card. It was time anyway, so got rid of the 760, upgraded to the 1060. Everything's working, so I guess it's not a software problem. Well, that would have sucked, though, if I would have spent $350 on a video card, put it in here, and I still had the same problems. I would have been pulling my hair out if I had any hair. Have you tested Linux Mint 18.3 Monte? It seems very light with RAM and CPU usage. No, I haven't. I really haven't done much with Linux Mint actually on the channel at all. I think I reviewed one Linux Mint release very early on in the channel's history, and that's it. I've only done, I think, one video on Linux Mint, so I probably should actually spend more time with Mint. I know there's a lot of Mint users out there. It's just not a distro that's ever interested interested me personally. Let's see, Omar. How about making a video on hard drive encryption? Vericrypt, maybe. Could be something interesting to do. I could add that to my to-do list. We might take a look at that eventually. I do want to do more videos that are not like distro reviews. And I have a list of things that I think would make interesting topics that I want to get to very soon. Some of them have been on the back burner for, like I said, a month now because I've had problems with recording and streaming. And anytime I could get things to work right for a few minutes, the videos I needed to make, the important ones here lately, of course, were the big 1804 releases, the Fedora 28 release. I had to get those videos made. Mainly just because people are interested. I mean, so many people are interested. Like that 1804 video for like mainline Ubuntu 1804. I don't know how many views I've got on that in the last week. Probably 15, 20,000. About 17,000 views on it, looks like. So there's just too much interest in that sort of thing. You know, when a big release is coming out, you know, I've got to make a video on that. Not that nobody is, you know, interested in hard drive encryption, but that'll be one of those, like I have some extra time, I don't have anything else planned. Oh, why don't we do something on hard drive encryption for a few minutes? Let's see, UU mentions Amethyst is the tiling window manager for Mac. I did not know about that. Of course, I don't know anything about Mac, but that might be something for the person that was asking about high DPI tiling window manager for MacBook Pro. Yeah. UU mentions do a 1804 clean net install and only OpenBox. I could do that. I've done that with the mini ISO of Debian. Did a net install of that once and installed OpenBox on that very minimal install of Debian. It works the same way in Ubuntu. So really no difference. But I may do some more OpenBox stuff now that I haven't done anything in OpenBox in a while. And for some reason my channel has really become kind of like the OpenBox channel. I get so many people, you know, messaging me and emailing me, hey, you know what, I'm in OpenBox now, I'm running an OpenBox distro. I never would have even thought to try this thing had it not been for your channel, because especially early on I did so many OpenBox videos. So I might do some more OpenBox stuff. Of course, you guys know I love Qtile. May do some more videos on that. Those will probably be recurring topics on the channel forever. OpenBox, Qtile, Xmonad. Because I just love those window managers. They're so minimal, so easy. Well, not easy as far as the config, but once you get them configured, they're just perfect. They just do so many things well. Let's see, back to the chat here. Survivor of the Fire, would you ever consider running Gentoo or a Gentoo-based distro as a daily driver, not necessarily for vid production? I actually did install Calculate Linux on this machine when I said I tried a different distro every week for 10 weeks straight, mainly because I was having problems with OBS and that video card. I did live in Calculate Linux for a week, made, you know, my usual videos and stuff in Calculate. It worked. So I would have no problem running Calculate. I would have no problem running Sabian on my main production machine. If I had the kind of time to put into a standard Gentoo install, I'd be fine with Gentoo on this machine. I'd be fine with really any distro. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily the distro that matters. Because I'm going to put, you know, OpenBox or Xmonad on them anyway. Like, pull down all my usual config files, and when you do that, it doesn't matter what the distro is. Like Xmonad with my configs looks exactly the same on Ubuntu as it does on Gentoo, as it does on Arch, as it does on Fedora. The only difference is you won't even be able to tell until you open a terminal and have to do something with the package manager, because then you're dealing with different package managers, you know, apt, emerge, pacman, DNF. Other than that, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So they all would function the same way. That's another advantage of using these minimal window managers. Like when you use something like GNOME or KDE, for the most part, you're using somebody else's config, somebody else's vision of GNOME or KDE or XFCE, whatever that particular distro their devs decided to give you with that GNOME or KDE install. My Xmonad install is always going to be my Xmonad install. It's always going to be the exact same config that I just pulled down from my GitHub page. Which some people would also ask, are certain distros faster than others? No. I've never experienced a speed difference. Like if I do a minimal install of, say, OpenBox or Xmonad on top of Debian, Fedora, SUSE, Gentoo, Arch, you would not be able to tell any difference. Like if I just put somebody down in front of OpenBox on Arch, somebody in front of OpenBox on Ubuntu, said, here you go, play with it. Things just open instantly in both. I mean, let's see. Kerwin mentions there's a major Windows 10 update available. Good luck with that, Kerwin. You know what? I should keep an install of Windows 10 around because I know so little about Windows. I really need to educate myself a little more on Windows. Genuinely, I'm really dumb when it comes to Windows because I haven't used it in so long. The last version of Windows that I actually spent any real time in was XP. So let's see. TJ mentions, did you take a look at Manjaro OpenBox yet? It looks pretty awesome. I have not. I installed Maybox, which was an old community edition of Manjaro that included the OpenBox window manager. And it was really nice, but it's a dead project now. But if they have another community edition with OpenBox, something more recent and up to date, I will actually take a look at that because that would be interesting. And Comrade Curio, yeah, Comrade BSPWM is good. Might want to check it out. I will. I have to get through the 11 that I'm doing initially in the Obscure Window Manager. Again, I've got 4 more to do, I think. Fluxbox I'm going to do tomorrow. Then after that, I'm going to try to knock out pretty quickly, you know, within the next month, Herbstluft WM, i3, and Ice Window Manager. As soon as I get those 11 initial window managers of the Obscure Window Manager out of the way, probably the next one I would consider taking a look at, adding to the list, would be BSPWM. So many people have asked me about it. I'll look at it. A few of you have asked me to take a look at DWM too. I might take a look at that one eventually. I've got one person that has asked me about rat poison constantly. I'm probably not going to take a look at rat poison. I don't know anybody that runs rat poison. Not sure if anybody would be interested in that, to be honest. I don't know. I might change my mind on rat poison. We'll see. Let's see. OpenBox feels like the Linux version of Infinity Gauntlet, no matter Ubuntu or Arch. Daniel DeBruno. I run BSPWM. It's very easy to do it yourself. For the do-it-yourself type, the config file is actually just a bash script. Okay. Yeah, and that's the thing with every tiling window manager is you have to write a config file. So if it's just, you know, a lot of bash scripting, that's okay. Qtile's case, it's written in Python. That's not too bad. A lot of other tiling window managers have their own like custom kind of script to it that's, you know, kind of easy to use and logical. Then you have Awesome Window Manager, which is configured in Lua. Then you have Xmonad, which is entirely configured in Haskell. Who the hell knows Haskell? Kerwin Jones mentions it's crap. I'm assuming here's a major Windows 10 update. Let's see. Survivor of the Fire. Actually, I recently completely wiped Windows 10 from my drive and replaced it with Solus. Having fun so far. Yeah, this laptop back here. That's Solus Budgie on that. I've had it out on that laptop for, I don't know, 2 months now. No issues at all. It just runs. It works. I might do some hopping on the laptop, though. Since I've made a decision not to hop anymore on my main production machine, we may start hopping on the laptop, because I've kind of left the laptop alone. Alright, Pusang mentions he's got to go. Have a good one. Congrats on 200 again. Thank you, sir. Or ma'am. I'm not sure which. Alan Rocco. Hello, all. Hey, what's going on, Alan? You're kind of joining the stream here as I was about to end it. I'll give it a few more minutes, though. You almost missed the show. You haven't missed much. I really haven't done anything except I talked a little bit about my new graphics card that I bought today. Installed this, and it fixed all the problems I'd been having. I haven't been able to stream in a few weeks. I was also just having problems just recording, not even live streaming. Live streaming can be very taxing on your GPU and your CPU for that matter. But I can understand, you know, for some reason I can't live stream. Okay, I should be able to at least record my desktop in OBS. I was struggling to do that with my old video card, so something was going on with it. It needed to be replaced. It's not a 1080, that was a 1060. I probably just didn't put it in the picture frame good enough, but that is 1060. I would have loved to have bought a 1080, but I would have had to gone to a bank and taken out a very large loan. The price tag on the 1080, I want to say was $699, or I forget what it was. It was outrageous. And then I'm buying it locally. I mean, with tax, that thing would have been through the roof. And then I got to replace the power supply. I got to get a bigger power supply. At that point, I would have had to probably borrowed money from 2 different banks to upgrade to a 1080. Comrade Curio mentions, what laptop do I have? Now, I am not much on hardware as far as good hardware. You will find nothing high-end, you know. Now, obviously, there's some exceptions, like my Blue Yeti mic's pretty decent mic, my webcam. You know, I spend some money on the things I have to. That laptop behind me, that is a Toshiba Satellite that uses a AMD A8 processor. I bought it $300, $320, I think, new. I bought it at Best Buy, I want to say 3 years ago, for $320. Not a powerful machine at all. It had Windows on it. I normally don't buy machines that come pre-installed with Windows, but I needed a laptop kind of in a hurry at the time. So it did have Windows 8 on it, I think, at the time. Maybe it was 10, I don't know. I think it was 8. Either way, I never even used whatever Windows was on it. I wiped it out immediately and put the LTS of Ubuntu on it. Was the first thing I'd put on it. And the install went smooth, so the Toshibas were no problem to get Linux up and running. Everything works on them. Steven Anderson, another congrats on the 200 and my new graphics card. Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited about the graphics card. I really haven't played around with it. I mean, I know streaming and recording and everything obviously looks like it's going to work, which is the main thing. But I might do some gaming with it. Maybe right after I end the stream. Test it out. Q1 Fiend. DT, you mentioned Raspberry Pis earlier. I've got a Pi too. I'd be happy to send your way if you think you can make use of it. Well, I appreciate that. What I think I'm going to do, though, is they're not terribly expensive. I'm going to shell out the money for a Pi. But I appreciate you offering to let me borrow one of yours. Coincidentally, or, you know, curiously, how many Raspberry Pis do you have, Q1 Fiend? If you'd be happy to let one go. Because I know a few people that like to play with Raspberry Pis. A lot of them end up having many. I guess you can't have just one. Forgot I had my beer here. It's gotten warm. Alright. I still got VirtualBox up here. You know what? I'm going to kill the stream, I guess, in about 9 minutes. That'll make it 9 o'clock here in the Central Time Zone. That's an hour and a half stream. Let's see in 9 minutes how far I get with one of these other updates. You know what? Just for fun. I know it's going to be all night, but you know what? Let's go ahead and start Sabian updating. Q1 Fiend mentions he has 4 Raspberry Pis in use right now. That's what I thought. And I could see myself being that way too. I buy one, I think it's neat, I play with it, tinker with it. Well, now I have to buy another one so I can do something else with that one. So. And King of Bass is also in the chat. He mentions congrats on the 200 and the graphics card. Thanks, King of Bass. Oh my goodness, what just happened to my desktop? This is the VM, guys. This is not my real desktop. Apparently we're having some guest edition problems, I'm assuming, is causing the graphical craziness here. So I'm going to have to kill that VM. Let me run an X kill. Boom. Blew it away. So I won't be doing Sabian. Should I try calculate? You know what? No. Let's not toy with death tonight. The last live stream I did, I had so many problems with. Of course, it was with that buggy graphics card. I'm sure that the graphics card was part of the problem, but I couldn't figure out why OBS wasn't streaming, and I ended up starting and stopping the stream like 8 different times, going in the TTY prompt and killing various processes that were running. One time I killed Pulse Audio during the stream. Which was interesting when I got back to the desktop and tried to talk to you guys. No one could hear me because I killed Pulse Audio and I couldn't get it restarted. But that's how professional these streams are. You know, the videos I actually record, I leave a lot of goofy mistakes in them too because I'm lazy. I don't like to edit video. But the live streams, I really need to do a better job putting a little effort into these. Yeah, I'm using what Manjaro with what window manager? Survivor of the Fire is asking. This is Qtile. This is the Qtile window manager, written entirely in Python. The config is entirely Python. Matter of fact, I can show you the config. I think I've got it hotkeyed. Yep. Let me change layouts here. This is my Qtile config. All Python. Here's all the key bindings. For example, mod, which is set to the shift key. Shift return opens a terminal. Not shift key, super key. Super return opens a terminal. Super tab toggles through the layouts. Super shift C kills the active window, closes the window. Super shift R restarts Qtile. If I do any changes in this config file, you always have to restart the window manager. And I have a whole bunch of key mods. Various coloring, groups, which are the tags here at the top on the panel, dev, www, sys, doc, etc. And then the default layout on each of those groups. For example, under the graphics tab here, the default layout is floating because most of the time I'm in GIMP in that layout. And I would rather all those GIMP windows be floating rather than trying to tile. It makes no sense to tile all those GIMP windows. And this particular layout here is where all the widgets are in the panel here. There's all of this stuff. You see widget.group, widget.prompt, widget.separator is what that is, etc. Clock, text box, layout. And then this config here is basically the panel on all 3 of my monitors, monitor 1, 2, and 3. And some floating window manager stuff. This section of the config defining a few things is where I define my mod key. Mod key is set to mod 4, which is super on the keyboard, the Windows key. My term is set to my default terminal, termite. My config is the location of my qtile config file. Anyway, and that's pretty much it. It's kind of long, but a lot of it is key bindings. It's not really complicated to config qtile. And you can always just go grab somebody's qtile config from GitHub, such as my GitHub page. You guys can just rip mine down. The only thing is, if you're not using 3 monitors, you will have to cut out like parts where I'm defining stuff, like the screen section. You only need this one here, like this one, and then this line here where I've got screen 3 times here. You only need one of them if you have 1 monitor. If you have 2 monitors, you need 2 of them. Anyway, that's qtile. And again, I'm going to try to do at least 1 video tomorrow. For sure, I'm going to try to do that Fluxbox video tomorrow for the Obscure Window Manager. I'm also going to try to do one for the 30-day challenge where I'm living in a tiling window manager and using only command line apps where appropriate. I may do one of those tomorrow too. You may get 2 videos tomorrow. And if I do that, I may do some qtile stuff in that video, show you guys a little more of qtile. I may also show you a little bit of Xmonad in that video, because I've used both of them in the last month. About 90% of the time I've lived in qtile because I've got it configured exactly the way I want it. Xmonad was not configured exactly the way I want it because all my Xmonad configs are very old, and when I try to use them on this 3 monitor setup, certain things didn't work right. Certain functions in that Xmonad config no longer work properly because Xmonad has had a lot of updates since when I initially wrote that config file 8 years ago, or whenever I first learned about Xmonad. So I had to actually spend some time researching the Haskell programming language and looking for the Xmonad libraries and everything on, what is it, Hackage, whatever the Haskell website is. And I had to actually fix my Xmonad config, which was not an easy thing to do. I spent a couple of hours actually trying to get Xmonad to work correctly. But I was able to do that, and I have spent some time in Xmonad in the last month. Alright, back to the chat. Let's see what I've missed here while playing around in qtile here. Let's see. Comrade Curio, so now that your problems with OBS are solved, are you going to go back to Arch? Well, yeah, I mean, I switched distros like 10 times in the last 2 months. I could go back to any of them now, not just Arch. I mean, I can go back to Calculate, Antics, Lubuntu. Man, what? I know it was like at least 8 to 10 distros I tried. I can't even remember some of them. I was on Solus for like a minute. What else? Antics. I don't know. I'd have to go back and like look at some of the older videos on my channel and see exactly what I was using recording some of those videos. But I tried a lot of distros. But yeah, I could go back now that I got the OBS working correctly. Could I reinstall just mainline Arch? Yeah, I could. But I've got qtile and everything set up working in Manjaro. And this was the Manjaro i3 edition. You know, so it's not like a lot of extra cruft is installed on top of Manjaro anyway, not in the i3 edition. So I don't see the point of going through, you know, a couple hour install process with Arch and then trying to restore all my backups just to get to this point again. So I'm just going to leave Manjaro in there. But yeah, there was nothing wrong with that Arch installation. Had OBS been functioning correctly, I would have never even thought about wiping Arch off this machine because everything else just worked. I just could not figure out what was going on with the streaming, why I was having problems streaming. So it made sense. You know what? I wasn't that invested in Arch anyway. I just installed it a week or so earlier. So I just went ahead and wiped it out, tried something else. And then that didn't work either. So, you know, after trying a few different distros, and none of them are working correctly as far as OBS and streaming. Doesn't matter what version of OBS, didn't matter what NVIDIA drivers I installed, didn't matter what kernel I installed. I tried various different kernels, thinking maybe some of the newer kernels are buggy. Didn't matter. So the last thing I tried was, let's take that old 760, NVIDIA 760 out of this machine and put a different card in it. That worked. So, all right. TJ, well, have a good night. Enjoy your new card. Thank you, TJ. I'm actually shutting this down probably in the next minute or two. Let me just quickly get back through the chat here. I'm just going to wind this down, guys. I appreciate all you guys showing up here this evening. Tutorius Cat. How's it going, guys? You're the best Linux YouTuber, by the way, DT. Appreciate that, Tutorius. Alan Rocco mentions he's loving Arch and i3. Awesome. Can't wait to try i3. I've got i3 installed on this. I just haven't ever logged into that i3 session yet. But I will soon, because I've got to take a look at i3 for the Obscure Window Manager project. Let's see, have you looked into using i3 or i3 gaps? Not yet. Very, very soon. We're going to get to that soon. But even if I do take a look at i3, I doubt I'm going to switch to i3 and live in it. Because at the end of the day, I've got to write a config file for that thing to set it up exactly the way I want it. I've already got that with Qtile and with Xmonad because I've used them before, and OpenBox, which is not a tiling window manager. But because I've got those things set up exactly the way I want them, I'm not really prepared to go through the trouble of doing that with something like i3 or any tiling window manager. But I'm sure i3 is going to be a fine window manager. I mean, tiling window managers, for the most part, are all the same. Well, they're not all the same, but if you've used one tiling window manager, you've used them all. Alright, Super Garaja, I don't know what that is. I just switched from Windows 10 to Antergos today. Good job. I think you're going to like Antergos. If this is your very first Linux distribution, an Arch-based Linux distribution is not one I personally would have recommended to you, but hey, you're already there, you got it installed, see how it goes. There may be some minor breakages along the way. Main thing is keep the system updated. Every 2 or 3 days, run an update. If you go more than a few weeks without running an update, you're going to have major problems when you decide to update the system, because things are going to break on you, and if you're a new user, you're not really going to know how to fix them. So keeping things updated minimizes that. Alright. Q1 Fiend. Great stream as always, DT. Happy 200th. Thanks, Q1 Fiend. Okay, guys. Well, I'm going to shut it down for this evening. We've been going for about an hour and 30 minutes, hour and 35 minutes. Gray Has Roots also sends me a congrats. Thanks, Gray. Gray mentions he's updating his Chromebook to dev channels so I can run Linux apps. Very cool. I don't know anything about Chromebooks. I've never owned one. Might be something I ought to buy down the road just to play with. They look like they're kind of cool. I mean, could be something interesting to play with down the road. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down for this evening. For those of you that are still here, Alan, Brandon, Daniel, Gray, Omar, Q1 Fiend, Super, Tutorius. I want to thank you guys for joining in. All the guys that were here earlier that chimed in. Appreciate you guys for stopping by. Before I go, I need to give a special thanks to my patrons. A.K. Ron, Mr. Neely Pops, John, Brian, Carl, Greg, Carlos, Rob, Matt, Darkwin, Mark, Christian, Jake, Benjamin, Stephen, Marcus, Interceptor, Bob, Leor. You guys are awesome. You guys help make this show possible. Peace, guys.